us. Yay!
Yay. That was like the least convincing yay I think I've ever said in my life. I'm sending the janky background on our text message thread.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay. So, Sly.
Hold on,
Ready for
everyone.
this?
I don't know. Am I?
Hold on.
Oh, God, there's my washer.
save
Just
it?
everybody ignore that.
We can't hear it. You're fine. Okay, so
Save.
when you click the plus button, like you were to upload or do a video, you should have like the live tab.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Tell me, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah,
Hi, everybody
so
watching. We're trying to figure things out. So right now I'm going to leave you with our
Green
Rogers the
screen.
Musical is here.
Yay! I did
While we
it.
figure this out.
I got it.
Hi, everybody. We're live on YouTube and Twitch. It's the Hawkeye After Parties, and there's 4 of us co-hosting tonight. The link's in my bio if you want to join us. Bear with us,
Alexis.
while we
Once
figure
you
out
have the
technical difficulties of
picture,
getting us all here.
click the little like pencil enhance thingy on the bottom of the live, and then effects.
It's not downloading.
Oh, I like hit save and it didn't give me any confirmation.
Oh, you
but
did it!
It was there when I went to do it.
I'm not even
did
seeing
it.
save.
Hold on. Oh my god, it's so
In
funny.
the
We have
text,
4 of us
if
trying to get
you-
this background uploaded right now.
Just ignore me.
Chaos.
Being
Sly and I got it under control, so Alexis
In
and
the
Marissa are on a
text
different
thread,
live, also
just
trying to do what we've
yeah, I have
hold
some
your
here.
finger.
choice words for you.
Did
No,
you two figure it out?
It just says reply and more.
Okay.
And downloading ...
What? Can you take a screenshot of it? Do you know how to take a screenshot? Could you just...
Screw you.
I'm so sorry, everyone. Come join us on YouTube and Twitch by clicking Producer Liz at the top, and you'll be able to see the chaos of 4 co-hosts for this show. And we're talking all things Hawkeye tonight, Rogers the Musical. We have a lot of show to
Alexis
cover.
left.
They dropped 2
She'll come
episodes
back.
this
It's fine.
week. Hello to Shelby watching on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Hello, everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure you're saying hello in the comments so we can say hello and that we know you're here hanging out with us. Happy Thanksgiving weekend to everybody watching. Happy first night of Hanukkah to all those celebrating. Happy Hawkeye premiere to all the Marvel fans. It's been a shockingly okay week, I think, to be a Marvel fan, which is not what we've said the premiere of every season we've done, but this week it seems to be true. We have a lot of positives that we're going to be talking about these first 2 episodes of Hawkeye. And of course, we have many rants prepared and in store, and I will let y'all know. This is the most prepared we have ever been for an episode. We made a Google Doc and everything, so trust the chaos is planned.
Figure out Hi, everybody.
Okay, Marissa, do you have it up?
I do.
Okay, then it's fine. Because at least one person
live
can...
again, Alexis. Just come back.
Alexis needs to figure out her TikTok live. But if you're watching on TikTok, make sure you say hello in the comments so we know you're here and hanging out. I want to say hey to Alexis, who's watching on YouTube, and Leah P. Welcome back to season 4. It's so nice to see so many folks returning to watch our show. If this is your first time tuning in, every week we kind of break down what's happening on our favorite MCU shows. We've done it for Loki. We've done it for What If. Now we're doing it for Hawkeye. We're so excited to welcome Sly to the show. Sly is on this side of me on TikTok and on this side of me on YouTube and Twitch, which that's going to be fun. I'm going to have to do this every time I talk about Sly. But we're so excited to have Sly with us talking about season 4, talking about Hawkeye. If you don't know, Sly is our resident Clint Barton extraordinaire.
I guess.
That's the title that I'm bestowing upon you. If it helps, we called Marissa when Marissa first joined, like our musical theater expert, which Marissa was like, well, I'm unsure. Oh, look at you. You've got the proper
Slides
start.
figured out
Achiever, I swear.
This is
Well,
incredible.
I have a green screen, so I might as well use it.
It's on my Christmas list to get a proper. I have a white screen, but it won't work for StreamYard, so I'm
I
hoping
have a
we'll
green
be
screen,
able
but
to-
I don't have a stand for it, so I have to like prop it against a wall, and it would not work within this. I have to
a
get
map
like
of a museum heist.
It looks
I'm
beautiful.
normal.
Can y'all see how prepared we are for this? Anyway, keep saying hello in the comments. We're going to get the show started with everyone watching. It's
Hi,
so nice to have all of
everybody.
you hanging out. We watched Hawkeye this week. Hawkeye premiered on Disney Plus, the first 2 episodes. This stream will contain spoilers. If you have not watched yet, the show will be spoiled for you. If you don't know, we have hot opinions about Marvel and even hotter co-hosts hanging out tonight. So let me introduce the panel and we'll get this show started. We've already talked about Sly. Sly is here joining us for their first season of Stark Radio. Sly, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody watching?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Sly. I'm a deaf queer person on the internet. I am a co-founder of Point in Progress, which is a general games media group, I guess. But we host a variety of podcasts and videos, reviews on our channel, and I'm a part of 3 shows for PIP, and that's our general podcast, a show I host and produce called 15 and 15, which is an interview show, which Alexis and Liz have both been on. I'm excited. Marissa, I need you for
I would love to.
Season.
Liz's episode was so stressful.
So fun. And then the 3rd show is called MC University, and that's my friend Mario and myself, and we discuss MCU adjacent, so the not MCU Marvel movies, and talk about that. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
It's a great show. If you're new to the MCU or you're trying to play catch up ahead of Spider-Man No Way Home, like what they're doing is so good. Go check it out. We'll plug in like the description or like whatever you do on all these platforms later so that everyone can find you and find those shows. For everyone watching on TikTok, Alexis and Marissa are about to speak, and they're on a different TikTok live, but they're on YouTube and Twitch. So if you want to hear the next like few minutes, go to the link up in my bio, producer Liz. It'll take you to our YouTube or Twitch, and you can see the full conversation. But I'm going to also, hello to all of our friends watching. I should say there's a lot of new faces coming in. Welcome to the Hawkeye after parties. Things are about to get very chaotic. But first, Marissa, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hello to everybody.
Yes, I should also say to our live, if you enjoyed that silence, you missed Liz and Sly's introductions, you can go to the link and see all of our lovely faces together.
Everyone on half of TikTok is being like, why are those two alive and not speaking
like,
at
smiling
all?
and nodding.
They're like, what is going on? Okay, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi. My name is Marissa at Miss Obabissa. I talk about all kinds of stuff in media and pop culture and theater. Talk a lot about theater and Disney and Marvel and wigs. Talk a lot about wigs.
She sure does.
Just all kinds of stuff. And yeah, that's me. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here as always. And Alexis.
Hi, I'm Alexis at Alexis Blake Reads Comics, and I talk about comics on the internet.
And Alpine. Thank you, Sly. Thank you.
And Alpine and cats. Yes, cats. But mostly comics. Comics and cats.
Alexis talks about Alpine on such a regular basis. We've actually added Alpine graphics to the show, which you may or may not see depending on the course of the conversation. All the graphics.
You will.
Justice for Alpine.
Justice. I'm going to add the Justice for Alpine hashtag in a moment here, but just a reminder, if you want to see like the graphics, we're going to be referencing comic panels throughout the show. You can see all of it by coming to the YouTube and Twitch stream through the link in my bio. And the good news is if you watch on Twitch, you can exit out of the app and still watch the live, which means you can listen and watch and like be on Twitter and do other things. Major key. So come hang out with us while you do your internet Sunday night scrolling. But let's get the conversation started. If you don't know, there's lots of people on MCU TikTok that do really beautiful commentary and they do really wonderful analysis and they Easter egg hunt and they reveal all the hidden secrets of the show. That is not what this show is. This show is about chaos. It's about asking for better representation. It's about demanding more of our characters and our writers and appreciating being a Marvel fan, getting rid of the gatekeeping that holds this community back from being its best, and showing folks that you can be a chaotic fan, you can have differing opinions, and you can still be friends and have a great conversation. So throughout the show, make sure you're dropping your thoughts in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube and Twitch, you might see your comment come up on the screen just like earlier tonight. So keep saying hello, keep chiming in. We want to hear from you as we go. As always, we're starting with our initial reactions, followed by our WTF What the Fuck moments of the week, where we talk about the thing that surprised us or shocked us the most from the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye. So I'm going to let Sly begin, as this is your first episode of Stark Radio. So you deserve to open the show. What was your initial reaction to the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye? Maybe like we can talk about this in terms of just like general feeling, like when you finish those first 2 episodes, matching your expectations, lowering the bar of what you thought might be possible for this show. Where did you land?
Somewhere in the middle.
Mm.
So I was really hoping that they would not follow through with the Clint death storyline, which we'll discuss that later. But I knew, like, in the back of my head they were gonna go ahead with it, but it was still a little bit disappointing. In general, it looked good, like visually, it
Very
was
true.
good. And I was just so excited with Rogers, the musical.
Oh yeah.
So that was definitely a plus. And of course, seeing Alekwa Cox in episode 2, that was the
Absolutely
best moment for me.
I love that. And we're going to dig into all of those as the show goes on. We have almost an hour's worth of content planned just about Rogers the Musical, so stay tuned. That'll be the end of the show. And I know if you've been watching the show, which I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces in TikTok and in the YouTube comments, including JJ Bway Watch, y'all know how we've been feeling about Rogers the Musical, and we have so much we're going to discuss today. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that later. As well as everything else mentioned. I'm so excited to talk about Echo, but I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to let Marissa give your reaction.
Okay. If we're talking just initial thoughts, I told all of you this after I watched the episodes. My only thought was, I love Kate Bishop. She
So
belongs
true.
to me.
Kate Bishop.
You can't have her. I love her so much.
Marissa
She's
will be
for the gays
gatekeeping.
only.
She's for the gays only. The phase 4
Absolutely.
girlies are for the girls, the gays, and the days only.
That's it.
Yeah, I Stark Radio does not endorse gatekeeping. Stark Radio does not believe in gatekeeping.
Really? Because look at what I just put on the screen. On the screen on the YouTube and Twitch stream, I just added a graphic that scrolls that says this is a Kate Bishop gatekeeping warning.
My favorite new feature is the scrolling. Like, I feel like I'm on like Marvel CNN. It's my new favorite thing. Like,
this is the thing. I'm really threatened by Miss Betty Burnett coming on doing this whole Spider-Man TikTok account.
Oh yes.
To promote Spider-Man, Miss Betty from the high school is out
Who
here.
did the Bugle TikTok, Alexis?
oh no, I know.
Daily
I'm
coming for
confused as
Liz's
to why
spotlight.
she's intimidated.
Because I was the first, Elizabeth Root name blonde news reporter on Stark Radio on MCU TikTok. And the fact that a legitimate character is coming from my brand is, I'm gonna have to fight her. I'm gonna have to duet those videos, stitch those videos, and just tell her, like, Stark Radio versus Bugle, baby. Like, let's
go.
Catch me
Do
hiring
it.
the Tracksuit Mafia in my next TikTok.
Can I be the tracksuit?
Alexis and I will just wear sweats and say bro.
I'll be Liz's co-anchor. I'll be. Who is the guy in Far From Home? Ben. Is that his name? Yeah.
I think
You're
so.
right.
I'll be that
Yeah.
one.
Beautiful.
Ben Urich.
I can't wait. Who?
Ben Urich?
Oh yeah.
Is that his
Yeah.
name? That's
For
the
sure.
reporter from the Netflix shows too.
Yeah. I think you're right. You're so smart. This is why I'm so glad you're joining us for the season. Between me remembering no details of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then Marissa knowing every pop culture reference humanly possible, and you two having every frame of reference from the comics and MCU combined, this is like a superstar
Fair,
panel.
I just watched them this year for the first time.
I
That
feel
means
like
they're
this is
fresh.
an L of
New
chaos
information.
and then just a big gold star in the corner. It's like chaos, 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 gold star. I'm not resentful. I don't want it to come across that. I'm definitely resentful. I'm just saying.
I do
Alexa-
feel like it's like Liz and I against Sly and Alexis because y'all have
battling it
all of
out.
this comics knowledge, and Liz and I are like, it was a fun show.
Absolutely. Alexis, what's your reaction to these first two episodes?
I was pleasantly surprised by the first one. I liked the first episode more than I thought I would. I liked this. I felt like the second episode was a little bit of a letdown for me. Like I liked the first one. I didn't feel like the second one was really like equal to that. But yeah.
Okay, we'll dig into it. We will dig into it as we go. I actually felt the opposite. I loved episode.
Really?
Well, I shouldn't say I loved episode 2, but by the end of episode 2, I felt attached to the show. With Loki, it took me like a couple episodes to actually feel like, okay, like I can't wait to see what happens. And then the show completely turned, and I was like, okay, I feel differently now. I wasn't attached to What If at all. Even with WandaVision, it took until the episode when Jimmy Woo started coming through the radio, and that the twist kind of started to unveil itself for me to actually be like invested in. Like I was enjoying it, but it took a while for me to feel invested in what was happening. And I did feel that by episode 2, as soon as we saw Echo, really was when I was like, okay, I'm invested. Like I'm here. I'm excited. I cannot wait to see what is happening. So I'm glad it ended on that note for me. I was like, okay, like this is. I'm not leaving the episode like
the Echo in the first 2 episodes. I would not be invested. I'm right there with you.
It felt like a selling point. It was like not convinced.
Yeah.
No.
Here you go. So we have a lot of characters that like I want to dig into and talk about, because obviously there's so much newness that the show is bringing that like a lot of other shows haven't really given us a chance to talk about. You know, it's not just guessing. It's like we have for sure new introductions happening in these first 2 episodes. But I want to go to my favorite segment of the week. I think a lot of people look forward to this too from the DMs I get about our show, which is the what the fuck moment of the week, where we talk about the most chaotic moments of stress we experienced watching these episodes. And I would like to kick things off with a segment on conspiracies. And the conspiracy of the moment is, who the F bought Stark Tower? What is happening? We've had so much preamble to like the future of Stark Tower, right? And in my mind, I'm still in like 2012 fan fiction land where everything's fine and people are taking class trips to Stark Tower.
Yeah.
And it also gave us my new favorite Marvel meme. You know, we are really being served by these Marvel shows in terms of the memes that we're getting, which I really appreciate. And we had this beautiful moment from Kate Bishop that I'm trying to find of her saying, sorry, let me get rid of the banner here. That is so sad on so many levels. And I feel like this is going to be...
Same girl, same.
So good.
I feel like we're going to be able to bring this up multiple times in this conversation about things that have been said. However, I'll leave it there for now. I want to hear everyone's guess. Who do you think bought Stark Tower? What the F is going on with that? No one says anything.
I don't know.
I have an idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think it was Justin Hammer, because we all know he's in love with Stark, and I think it was his declaration of his love for Tony.
I'm stomaching.
Oh my god.
Yep. That's I wanted conspiracies and you just gave one. I'm here for it.
What if Bucky used all
We're
of
not
his
doing
military...
the what if show
No,
anymore. We're not
listen
doing
to
the
me.
what
What if Bucky used all of his military back pay and just like bought it in secret for no reason, just to be like, I
Of
want
course.
this and I have it now.
I really
Good
jive
for
with
him.
that. Good for him.
They probably didn't give him his military back pay, so
He's owed so much money.
So I was like, let's talk about military compensation right now.
Oh, I could go on a rant about that forever. Let's not start that now.
I really like the prediction that we just got from JJ watching on YouTube. JJ says Valentina bought it and will use it as a base for the
That's
next
like
Avengers.
good.
Mic drop on that one. Yeah.
I'm here for that.
That is, I'm going to say that I wish I stole that. Like, I wish that
Agreed.
I said
wish
it and I
that was
didn't
what
show
I
you
came
all
up
it came
with.
from JJ. And
That's what I
JJ 'd be
meant.
like,
That's-
what the F? I commented that, Liz. Like, that was not an original
That's what I
thought from
said.
you. That's, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay. I'll edit it later so it'll feel like it's our JJ, that was a great call out. That's probably the most reasonable thought. I was gonna straight up just continue the conversation, continue the joke that will never die, and say it's Mysterio.
That is not the joke I thought you were going to continue.
No, that's not the joke.
There's many jokes I could have picked from, but I feel like there has to be a Mysterio conspiracy for every Marvel show, so I'm going to say this is it. That makes no sense, but
Yeah.
Alexis?
I think, I can't say this with a straight face. I think the local animal shelter bought it and it's filled with cats.
That would be wonderful.
Alpine?
Alpine. But so
Get the graphic.
I know we talked about this with Falcon and Winter Soldier, that it was weird that all of a sudden, well, actually, I wasn't with you on that show, so we didn't talk about that. But I know it was discussed during Falcon and Winter Soldier that it was kind of bizarre that like Pepper and Stark Industries weren't there, right?
Yeah.
Like all of this stuff has happened.
What
You
are
could
they
be providing
doing?
like relief to people and like nobody's there. So when he said like Tony sold it years ago, I had the same question. Like, I'm like, what is going on? Like, is the company like falling into bankruptcy and just no one has told us? Like, it does kind of imply this larger, but my initial thought during the show was like this visual image of like Kingpin buying it, but not being able to upkeep it. So it's just like falling apart in the inside. And there's just like Tracksuit Mafia bros everywhere, like just but like college dorm room style, just like sleeping bags and like chaos.
I feel like this is a really good segue. I know we have a lot we want to talk about, but I think we should just go right into talking about these new characters. And that way, for anyone watching that's like hearing us, like obviously you watch the episodes, you've seen them on screen, but let's talk about who these new characters are. And that way everyone will have a same base of understanding, including me, who knows nothing of the comics history of these characters. So we will circle back on some more of our chaotic rants and definite talking points that we need to discuss. Let's do a very quick run through of some of these new faces and characters and who they are in the comics and who we might predict them to be in the context of the MCU. I'm going to open the floor to Sly and Alexis. Maybe we can go back and forth and we can pick, you two can pick like who you want to start with and who you want to talk about first. So maybe we'll start with Kate Bishop and then y'all can pick from there where to go next. But I feel like Kate's a good starting point. What do we know about Kate from the comics and a quick prediction of who Kate might turn out to be in the MCU?
You're taking Kate.
No, I'm taking Kate. Okay, so one of the really interesting things, just to brush on her backstory about Kate in the comics, is that she really becomes Hawkeye on her own, right? So Clint Barton's Hawkeye is not around. He's presumed dead at the time that she's taking on the Hawkeye mantle. And there have been a couple different like inception points for that in the comics. There's a brief reference to her seeing the Avengers, kind of being saved by the Avengers and picking up on Hawkeye that way. There's also a very long story that I'm actually kind of thankful they didn't go for in the show, where she picks up the mantle as a response to sexual assault, right? But she comes into Hawkeye on her own, and then later Clint comes back, and they meet up and start working together in the Fraction run. And they very much meet as equals, which is kind of a point of contention I have with this show, right? Like she is actually the one that is more emotionally mature in the relationship with
absolutely
like by a lot. And then she spins off into her own book, and she starts doing some PI work in various places, LA for a little while in Kelly Thompson's run. She's a member of the Young Avengers, so that's kind of great bi energy in the comics. That's Kate.
And the West Coast Avengers. Yes. That's probably my favorite comic book run. But that one's fun. It has both Hawkeyes, so it has Kate and Clint.
And we will break down who Clint Barton is in the MCU very soon. I want to show what Leah P is saying on YouTube. Leah says, all I have to say about Kate is style, icon. I completely agree. I cannot believe the looks that we're getting. I agree with the big bi energy statement. I really think Kate is pulling some looks. This suit was a moment. I think shout out to the rich aunt whose closet she got to invade. This was one of my favorite MCU moments, I think, was just like a bright orange neon suit. Like, go for it, Kate. We'll talk about the actual suits, I think, like in the episodes to come. Which character do we want to go to next? Do we want to talk about the Tracksuit Mafia?
Tracksuit Bros.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Tracksuit Bros. Where do we want to go first? I know there's some comic panels that we have. Do we want to dig in on some of those?
Oh yeah, go for
Let's
it.
Do it.
So I looked for the panel with the most bros, and that's what we came up with.
You got it, for sure. The one thing that I was like really disappointed about the show is they didn't call him Hawkeye, which is my favorite thing that they do. It's always Hawkeye.
That's so funny. I'm obsessed. So when I watched the show, I was like, please tell me that this group is real in the comics. Like, I don't know. I'd be so upset if this was an original writer's room idea. Like, I needed source material. So I was so pleased when y'all immediately were like, we have stuff to talk about these guys. So like, what's the most important thing to know about them from the comics?
In terms of the show, I think one of the more important things to know is that they're associated with Kingpin. But they kind of come into play in the Fraction run. And one of the great things about Matt Fraction's run was that he kind of added humor to everything, right? Mm-hmm. Natasha is laughably Russian, and the Tracksuit Bros are laughably Tracksuit Bros. But the Kingpin is the big connection that I felt like people were kind of missing in seeing them. That is pretty important in the comics. I'll let Sly take the rest of that.
Yeah. So especially for Fraction, they beat up Clint and then try to like steal his apartment building, and then Clint uses his Avengers money to buy the apartment building, and they're like the lower level antagonists for that run.
Lucky is also theirs in the Fraction comic. Like Lucky kind of hung out with them, and then
they stole. Clint stole Lucky from them.
Right on. And let's also just acknowledge how excited that the actors from the Tracksuit Mafia were to be at the premiere. This is one of my favorite premiere photos we have ever gotten. And this was one of many we could have picked from, but they were here for it. And I am here for it.
I feel like the Tracksuit Mafia is going to be up there with like the observers from Fringe. Like, I feel like people are just going to make them happen everywhere.
Obsessed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. Go ahead.
No, I have to say, this is the first MCU content that has made me like immediately want to go to the comics. Like,
like having a heart attack online.
Interesting.
Like, I would love to read some of the Cap runs, some of the Bucky, like the Winter Soldier, some of the like Natasha and Winter Soldier stuff. But like this was the show. Like, after the first episode, I was like, I want to read the Fraction run like right now.
Yeah.
And like, because it feels 600 miles. Can you mail it? You gonna walk there?
I will give you my Marvel Unlimited login for you to read them.
I'm gonna do it. We'll talk off live, Alexis. But
I'll take your login.
I got you, girl.
I'm obsessed with this comment from JJ, a what if episode where the tracksuit bros are the himbo heroes. Where is the Thor Tracksuit Mafia crossover? Why haven't we received it?
What I wanted versus what I got, right? Like, what I wanted, tracksuit, himbo bros. What I got, party Thor.
It's true. It's so true. And I mean, we have so many characters to talk about. We have so much to talk about these first two episodes. So let's just take a brief break from character introductions, if I can speak. And let's like move back to some of like our rants and really like balance this conversation. I know we really want to talk about the representation of the deaf community and what has happened with Clint Martin becoming deaf. And I say becoming deaf because this is the first appearance Clint has had in the MCU where he is wearing a hearing aid and communicating with sign language. And they did a very brief explanation as to why that is. So let's talk about it. They tried. And let's also start this conversation by saying that 3 of us on screen are not part of the deaf community. One is. And this conversation is absolutely not inclusive of every perspective that should be in this conversation. And I think that that's okay because it's still worth discussing and having an open mind about. So as we're talking and as we're all commenting our opinions on this part of the conversation, let's just remember that there are many voices that should be at the table that we would love to hear from and that should have a platform and are welcome to come and speak anytime about representation in the MCU. But I will open the floor. Let's talk about it. I know in the notes we have like so much to say about what's happening. And also with Echo and the representation coming from that character. Let's talk about the introduction that they gave to Clint. So we got, like I said, like some bits and pieces. It was interesting.
It was something. So I just want to share my perspective. I am a late deaf person, like Clint here. The difference being I lost my hearing, most of it around 16. He's obviously older, but the same experience of being a late deaf person, and I think that's really important here. I'm not happy about it. I love Clint in the comics. I love deaf Clint in the comics. I don't want Renner portraying deafness because it's not great. It's obviously written, the like dialogue was written obviously by a hearing person. Like, I can tell that. And it's just so awkward and it doesn't really fit with how he's portraying this character. It's not like fluid. It just feels like stilted and awkward. And that's not what I want from representation, especially from a big company like Marvel, right? And so I know some late deaf people were like, I don't care. I don't have a problem with him portraying deafness because, like, I'm late deaf, like older men, whatever. That's fine. You can have your perspective. But for me, it doesn't fit with my experience. Like, I lost my hearing and I dove into the deaf community. I didn't have access to it. And so it was like a long process of picking up like the culture and the experience and the language, and all of that was my experience, not what they're trying to show here. And the inclusion you see in two like main moments that I want to talk about. And the first is when they're in the theater and trying to represent his hearing loss with the sound design. And it's not great. I've only seen or experienced one example of representing hearing loss with sound, and that was in a podcast called Seen and Not Heard. It's made by a deaf person. It's amazing. Caro is awesome. Anyways, but the sound design here, not great. I think Alexis mentioned it felt more like a PTSD, like flashback moment, and not like showing his hearing experience. And I agree with that. It didn't match like what parts of your hearing are lost and what's kept. Like, I know it's different and varies for everybody, but it's not great example for that. The other was his comment when they were walking together and he said like, not because I want to hear you or whatever, but because I have to. That's not a joke a deaf person would make. And I know because we love making deaf jokes, and that just wasn't a good one. I would have loved for them to make a great deaf joke there, and they didn't. It was just awkward and kind of like a like throwaway line. Like, it didn't mean anything. And so that's most of my problems. I feel like I'm just ranting now.
Listen, you're allowed. So like, let's start with that. There's no apologizing for any of what you just said because it's so valid. If I can add to what you're saying, I think it's interesting how with the Eternals premiere and promotion, we heard a lot about who was behind the scenes informing the representation. And like, maybe I haven't been seeing it, but it feels like that has not been a part of the Hawkeye promotion at all. And yet they wanted to be a part of the show. So I'm like, okay, so you're going to have a leading deaf character in a Marvel movie. And we're going to hear all about how that actress was able to inform and bring in people and bring in support and inform multiple parts of that role. And then we're also at the exact same moment in time, like weeks later, going to reintroduce a character we know, tell you that they're deaf, and we're going to tell you nothing about how we informed that choice and informed the writing and all of the pieces you mentioned, like the play and the jokes that are being made. And maybe it will come as the show unfolds. Like, maybe it will become this part of the plot and whatever. But it seems not balanced.
Yeah, I will say, I know that working with Alekwa Cox was the same director of ASL, which is that worked on Eternals, and that's what's his name?
Douglas.
David?
Ridloff. Douglas.
Douglas Ridloff, who is his wife is Lauren Ridloff.
Shout out Lauren Ridloff.
So,
love.
He's great. They're both great, but I know he worked on this with Alekwa Cox. I don't know if he worked with Jeremy Renner. So I don't know.
Well,
can't say.
and maybe once we learn more about Echo and like they start, every show goes through different promotional points, right? So right now the Marvel promo seems to be all about introducing Kate Bishop, and they're really leaning that way. And then maybe as we get more of the plot, the same way it happened with Loki, and they really shift everything towards Sylvie, and then at the very end towards Jonathan Majors. Maybe once we get further in, they'll shift and do an entire promo reel that's more aimed at what's happening with representation, and maybe we'll hear that as we go.
I hope so.
I also and I'm asking, has Jeremy Renner talked about this at all in the press that he's been doing? Because it seems like there's been
nothing.
Which is
I haven't
interesting.
seen anything about that.
It makes me ask the question. It makes me wonder, what value is it adding to this story? Is it just because it's in the Fraction run? Or is it because, does it have anything to do with the story going forward? Because it's it feels like it's backtracking both on representation and on who they have tried to establish Clint to be.
Which, to be fair, if they're going to be drawing parallels with Black Widow, you might as well give both characters some backpedaling representation, because the same thing happened with Black Widow this year. That was sarcasm, just to be extremely clear. If that was not. Alexis, it looks like you wanted to chime in.
No, I think one of the things, there's kind of 2 points here to me, right? And one of the things that is an interesting point of the Hawkeye conversation, right, is that shortly after the Avengers, everybody was like, well, we didn't want that Hawkeye. We wanted the Fraction Hawkeye, right? And the fact of the matter is, and I will fight people over this, is that the Hawkeye that we got in Avengers was the Hawkeye that existed in the comics at the time, right? It was not like Matt Fraction's Hawkeye had existed since the 80s and they just ignored it, right? Matt Fraction tried to answer this question, why is he with this team? What does this normal guy do on his day off? Oh, he doesn't take one, right? And was really inspired by the commentary and the dialogue that was happening around his Jason Bourne type role in the Avengers, right? It was not a direct copy from the Ultimates comics either. It was just who Hawkeye was at the time, right? And the history of Hawkeye in the comics in revolving around his deafness is also very rocky until the Fraction run, right? So one of the things that is fascinating to me is that there is so much Hawkeye to take from that could have still been authentic to this character. It really felt like, because of all of the the hype around the Fraction comic, that they try to shoehorn all of that in, right? It tried to shoehorn in this representation that hadn't really been in the comics previously either, right? It had been very hit or miss, and Fraction brought it back and was like, this is what we're going to focus on, and it's still hit or miss, right? So to me, that's part of the reason that it felt a little shoehorny. But as a hearing person, it felt more like an accessory to his character to me than he did resembling the people that I know that are deaf or hard of hearing. And I think that is kind of a symptom of their problem of trying to kind of make this comic that work that wasn't really thought about in the universe that they started creating when they started creating it.
Yeah, all of that.
Retweet.
Sorry, I talked a lot.
Yeah, can you bring up the example of good speech reading versus bad speech reading? So this is what I wanted to talk about with the comic. So on the is it the right? You have the Fraction. And that's showing, his brother and him having a conversation. And he's guessing words, trying to figure out what he's saying. And the other is, I don't know if it's from Blind Spot. I don't remember. Alexis, do you know?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know. It's not important. But basically, it's Maria Hill talking to Clint, but he's lip reading, but it's perfect English words written out. And that's not how speech reading works at all. I also don't like her comment about just use your hearing aid, because I hate that when people act like hearing aids like magically fix everything. They don't. They're just assistive. Like, it doesn't magically make my hearing perfect.
Reappear. Like, wow.
So yeah, there's good representation and there's bad representation with the comics, and I just wanted to show that as an example for that.
I do just want to quickly apologize to people watching. I see there's like spam comments coming in on our YouTube feed. We're just going to continue to block people that are clearly not commentating on the show. So if you see things and you want them reported, just let me know, and I'll continue to block as fast as I can as I see things coming through. However, I just cut you off. So like, let's just like go back to what you were saying. If anyone wants to comment back on that before I sidetrack us in a new direction, perhaps. My new direction is talking about this queen. If that's where we want to go next. Sly, I know you want to dig in, so please talk about the love of your life.
Okay, so I have an awesome friend who's really smart and knows so much about comics. And when I started getting into Marvel, I watched a video that said, find a character you like and follow their story through time. And so I was thinking, who do I want to follow? Oh yeah, Echo is deaf in the comics. I'm deaf. That's interesting. I'll pick that character and read all of the books she's in. So I did that. That was my start to. I had read comics before, but I was never involved in Marvel until this year. So that was a whole new experience for me. So I followed everything that Echo was in, and I fell in love with her character. I would say the best beginning for her character is I don't know the specific volumes, but it's the Daredevil 98, I think, and it's like 9 through 11 and then like 50 through 54, I think. You'll have to double check that, but that introduces
I'm so sorry, I'm gonna stop you just for a second. We're having some issues with the YouTube feed, so we're gonna stop streaming to YouTube for the night. You can find us on TikTok and come hang out there, or Twitch, but we're gonna say good night to YouTube.